The creature known as Kval lay bleeding among the smoking ruins of the battlefield. His massive form, a hulking blend of reptilian muscle and cybernetic enhancements, shuddered with each labored breath. The Ryan military forces had created him to be the perfect killing machine, but now that he was damaged, they had simply left him to die. Pain coursed through Kval's body as he tried to move. A direct hit from a human plasma cannon had torn through his armored hide, exposing the complex machinery beneath. The battle had been fierce, with the Ryan forces pushing into human territory on the contested moon of Ilara. But the humans had fought back with unexpected ferocity, and the Ryan commanders had ordered a full retreat. "Leave the damaged units," he had heard his handler say coldly. "They are replaceable." Kval had watched as the transport ships lifted off, carrying his uninjured brethren and their Ryan masters. Not once did anyone look back at the wounded war beasts left scattered across the battlefield. This was the way of the Ryan, efficiency above all else. A damaged weapon was a useless weapon. Using his massive claws, Kval dragged himself toward a cluster of destroyed vehicles. The movement sent waves of agony through his body, but survival protocols were deeply embedded in his genetic code. Find cover. Assess damage. Repair if possible. His cybernetic eye scanned his own body, displaying a grim report of his injuries. Primary locomotion systems damage. Secondary circulatory system compromised. Weapons array offline. The rain fell harder now, washing away the blood that pooled beneath him. Kval had never known anything but war. Created in the Ryan laboratories, his earliest memories were of pain as they enhanced his natural reptilian strength with machinery and implants. They had bred intelligence into his kind. Enough to follow complex commands, but not enough to question them. Or so they thought. Kval had always been different. Where his brethren accepted their role without question, he had observed, learned, and wondered. Why did they fight? What purpose did this endless war serve? Such thoughts were dangerous, and he had hidden them well from the Ryan mind scanners. As he pulled himself deeper into the shelter of a destroyed tank, Kval's enhanced hearing detected the sound of approaching footsteps. Humans, their voices carried on the wind. Lieutenant Jun Park scanned the battlefield through his tactical visor, the soft rain pattering against his combat helmet. "Command says we're clear to proceed. No more Ryan signatures detected." "They pulled out fast," said Corporal Dai Kim, his rifle sweeping across the blasted terrain. "Must have realized they couldn't hold the position." Kval remained perfectly still. His skin could partially change color to match his surroundings, another Ryan enhancement. But the humans were thorough in their sweep, moving methodically across the battlefield, checking for survivors and gathering intelligence. "Look at this," another human called out. They left their wounded behind. Kval heard their footsteps approaching his position. He tried to activate his defensive systems, but only warning lights flashed in his cybernetic vision. He was defenseless. "Poor creatures," a female voice said. "The Ryan just use them and discard them." Kval had never heard a human speak with such. What was the word? Compassion. It was not a concept the Ryan valued or taught. To them, compassion was weakness. The footsteps came closer. Kval tried to rise but collapsed, a low growl escaping his throat. His creators had abandoned him, but instinct told him to fight until his last breath. "Over here," the female human called out. "This one's still alive." Kval braced himself for the killing shot. The humans had every reason to destroy him. His kind had torn apart countless human soldiers on dozens of battlefields. He was the enemy, a monster created for death. But instead of raising their weapons, the humans approached cautiously. The female, a medic by her insignia, knelt just outside of striking range. Kval could have reached her with a lunge if his body had been working properly. "Easy there, big guy," she said softly. "We're not going to hurt you." Kval did not understand. Why would they not eliminate a threat? The Ryan would never show such restraint. "Suma, are you crazy?" Lieutenant Park hissed. That thing could take your head off with one swipe. The medic, Sumi, shook her head. Look at him, June. He's badly wounded and abandoned. The Rion just left him here to die. Good riddance, Dai muttered. These things have killed hundreds of our people because they were forced to, Sumi replied, pulling medical equipment from her pack. Look at those control implants. The Rion don't give them a choice. Keval watched in confusion as the human medic prepared what appeared to be treatment supplies, not weapons. His translation implant allowed him to understand their language, but their actions made no sense to him. In his experience, different species did not help each other. They conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. Command needs to know about this, Lieutenant Park said, his voice tight with tension. We've never captured one alive before. Shumi looked directly at Keval, and for the first time in his existence, he felt seen as something more than a weapon. We're going to help you, she said slowly, as if understanding he could comprehend her. If you'll let us. Keval stared at the human, his instincts screamed to attack, to die fighting as he had been programmed to do. But something else, something deeper than programming, made him stay still as the human slowly approached with her medical scanner. Perhaps there was more to existence than being a weapon. Perhaps there was a reason he had survived when his brethren had fallen. Perhaps this strange human concept of compassion deserved investigation. Keval lowered his massive head to the ground, a universal sign of surrender across many species. He would see where this unexpected turn of events would lead. The human squad moved cautiously through the debris-filled battlefield. The skies above planet Ilara had finally cleared after 3 days of acid rain, revealing the full extent of the destruction. Twisted metal and charred earth stretched as far as the eye could see. This had been the Rion's most aggressive push yet into human territory, and the cost had been high on both sides. Hold position. Jun raised his fist, stopping the patrol. Movement at 2 o'clock. The 5-person team instantly froze, weapons ready. They had been sent to search for survivors and gather intelligence on Rion technology. No one expected to find anything alive after such a brutal battle. Dr. Hana Song moved up beside June, her medical scanner already active. She was the squad's medical officer, attached to the military but technically a civilian researcher specializing in xenobiology. Her presence on dangerous patrols often annoyed the soldiers, but her knowledge had proven invaluable many times. It's one of their war beasts, she whispered, studying the scanner's readings with intense focus. Biosigns are weak but present. The squad exchanged nervous glances. The Rion war beasts were legendary for their ferocity. Created through a combination of genetic engineering and cybernetic enhancement, they were living weapons that had torn through human defenses in the early days of the war. Put it down, Dai suggested, raising his weapon. The corporal had lost his brother to a war beast attack on Outpost 7. Those things have killed hundreds of our soldiers. Hannah placed her hand on his rifle barrel, pushing it down. It's wounded and abandoned. We're better than them, remember. We don't execute prisoners. That's not a prisoner, Doctor. It's a weapon, Dai argued, his voice tight with anger. A living tank designed to rip us apart. Jun motioned for everyone to keep their voices down. What exactly are we looking at, Doctor? Hannah adjusted her scanner. It's a Type 4 combat unit, reptilian-based genome with extensive modifications. It's severely injured. Plasma burns across 40% of its body, multiple cybernetic systems failing. Good, Tam muttered from his position at the rear of the squad. Let it die slow. Hannah shot him a disapproving look. It's alive, she insisted, and it's suffering. She was already calling for an extraction team on her comm unit. You can't be serious, Dad protested. Bring that thing to base. It could kill everyone. It can barely move according to these readings, Hannah countered. And this is the opportunity we've been waiting for. A live specimen could provide invaluable intelligence on Rion bioweaponry. June looked uncertain. Command might agree with the doctor. We've never captured one intact. There's a difference between intact and alive, Dad grumbled. The squad advanced slowly toward the location Hannah had indicated. In the shadow of a destroyed rayon tank, they found the creature. It was larger than they had expected. Nearly 3 meters of muscle, scale, and metal. Its natural reptilian features had been augmented with armor plating and weapon ports. One massive clawed hand clutched at a wound in its side where circuitry and tissue mingled in a grotesque display. The beast's eyes, one natural yellow with a vertical pupil, one glowing red cybernetic replacement, fixed on them as they approached. A low, rumbling growl emerged from its throat. "It's afraid," Hannah said softly. "It's preparing to attack," Dad corrected, his finger hovering near his trigger. Hannah took a careful step forward, prompting June to grab her arm. "Doctor, that's far enough. I need to assess its condition properly," she insisted, pulling free from his grip. The war beast watched her approach, its breathing labored. Up close, Hannah could see the extent of its injuries. The creature should have been dead already. Its survival spoke to incredible resilience, or perhaps some emergency medical systems built into its cybernetics. "Hello," she said softly, knowing it couldn't understand her, but hoping her tone might communicate her intent. "We're not going to hurt you." The creature's growl subsided slightly, though its muscles remained tensed. Its cyborg eye flickered, running what Hannah assumed was some kind of threat assessment. "Extraction team is 10 minutes out," Mira reported from behind them, her rifle trained on the beast. "Commander wants to know what we're dealing with." "Tell them to bring the heavy containment unit," Jun said, "and alert medical to prepare the secure lab." Hannah slowly opened her medical kit, maintaining eye contact with the creature. "I'm going to give you something for the pain," she explained, drawing out a universal painkiller that worked on most carbon-based life. As she prepared the injector, the war beast suddenly lurched forward, its massive jaws snapping inches from her face. Hannah fell backward as the squad's weapons all trained on the creature. "That's it. I'm putting it down," Day said, taking aim. "Wait." Hannah scrambled back to her feet. It was just defending itself. It's terrified. The war beast had collapsed again after its brief display of aggression, its strength clearly depleted. A strange sound emerged from it. Not a growl, but something almost like a whimper. "It needs help," Hannah said firmly. "And we're going to provide it." "The Rion wouldn't do the same for us," Tam pointed out. "That's exactly the point," Hannah replied, carefully approaching the beast again. "We're not like them. That's why we'll win this war, not just through strength of arms, but strength of character." She stopped just out of reach of the creature. "You've been abandoned," she said softly to it, "but we won't leave you to die alone in pain. That's a promise." The war beast's eyes fixed on her, and for a moment, Hannah thought she saw something unexpected there. Not just the mindless aggression of a weapon, but a flicker of intelligence, perhaps even understanding. The extraction team arrived minutes later with the specialized containment unit. Getting the massive creature loaded without further injuring it proved challenging, but Hannah supervised every step, insisting on careful handling despite Daz's continued objections. As they secured the war beast for transport, Jun approached Hannah. "I hope you know what you're doing, Doctor, if that thing gets loose on base." "It won't," Hannah said with more confidence than she felt. "And this could change everything we know about the Rion and their creations." What none of them realized as they lifted off was that the creature understood every word they had said. And for the first time in its existence, it had encountered something it had been told was impossible: mercy from an enemy. 2 weeks passed since the humans had brought Koval to their base. He drifted in and out of consciousness as they worked to save his life. The first few days were a blur of pain and confusion. Machines peeked around him. Voices spoke in hushed tones. Hands touched his wounds with care he had never known before. Koval awoke fully in a reinforced medical bay. The walls were thick, transparent material that he recognized as blast-resistant. Smart humans, they had saved him but still kept proper security measures. He tested his limbs, finding them responsive but weak. His wounds had been treated with surprising care. The gaping hole in his side was now covered with synthetic tissue that merged seamlessly with his scales. "Good morning," came a familiar voice. Keval turned his massive head to see the human female enter through a heavy security door. Hana, he had heard others call her. She carried no weapons, only medical equipment. Foolish, perhaps, but Keval felt no desire to harm her. Such thoughts confused him. He had been created to kill humans, not to feel. Was it gratitude? "Your vital signs are much stronger today," Hannah said as she checked monitors displaying his biological readings. "The synthetic tissue grafts are integrating well with your natural healing systems." Keval watched her work. The human female, Hannah, spent hours each day with him, treating his injuries and speaking in a soft, calm voice. She talked constantly, explaining medical procedures, commenting on base activities, even describing the weather outside. At first, Keval thought she simply enjoyed the sound of her own voice, but he began to realize she was trying to provide comfort through communication. No Rian had ever spoken to him except to give orders. "The cybernetic components in your spinal column were badly damaged," Hana explained as she examined scans of his back. "I need to remove some of them so the biological tissue can heal properly." Keval allowed her to approach his back, though every instinct told him not to expose such a vulnerable area to an enemy. He remained still as she worked, using delicate tools to extract broken pieces of metal and circuitry from between his armored scales. "I know you can understand me," she said one day, as she carefully removed damaged cybernetic components from his spine. "Your brain structure is too complex for you to be the mindless beast they wanted." Keval felt a jolt of surprise. She knew. Somehow, this human had seen through his careful mask of animal simplicity. "Your brain scans show activity in regions associated with complex thought," Hana continued, seemingly unbothered by his lack of response. "And you react to specific words. You tilt your head when I mention the Rian. Your pupils dilate when I discuss the battlefield where we found you." For 3 more days, Keval maintained his silence, evaluating his options. The humans treated him well. They kept him secure, but not in discomfort. They addressed his wounds and provided appropriate nutrition. Most surprisingly, they did not attempt to reprogram his control implants or force him to provide military intelligence. On the 4th day, Keval made a decision. When Hana arrived for her morning examination, he deliberately raised his right forelimb and tapped it twice on the floor. Then he waited. Hana froze, staring at him. "Did you just respond to me?" Keval tapped twice again. Once for no, twice for yes. Hana asked, excitement building in her voice. 2 taps. "You can understand everything I've been saying." 2 taps. Hana's face broke into a wide smile, an expression Keval had learned indicated human happiness. "This is incredible. I knew it. I told them you were intelligent." Over the next week, Keval gradually increased his responses, first with small movements, then with more complex gestures. Hana brought picture boards that allowed him to indicate basic needs and answers to simple questions. His dexterity improved as his strength returned, allowing him to point precisely at images or words. During this time, Hana discovered an unusual component among his neural implants. Unlike the weaponry controls and biological regulators, this device seemed designed for information transfer. "This looks like a neural interface," she told Keval, showing him scans of his brain. "The Rian must use it to program instructions directly into your mind." Keval tapped twice, then pointed to an image of 2 beings communicating. "They use it to communicate with you?" Hana asked. 2 taps. Hana's scientific curiosity was clearly piqued. "I wonder if we could adapt our neural link technology to interface with it. We use similar systems for pilots connecting to fighter ships." Keval watched with interest as she consulted with the base's technology specialists. Within days, they had modified a human neural link headset to potentially connect with his implant. Hannah explained every step of the process, always giving Keval the option to refuse. No one had ever offered him choices before. The day they tested the interface, several armed guards stood by. Keval did not blame them for their caution. Even injured, he could kill several humans before being stopped. The fact that he had no intention of doing so was irrelevant to their security protocols. Hannah placed the modified headset on her own head first. "This will create a one-way link at first," she explained. "If it works, I'll be able to receive neural impulses from your communication implant, but not send any. Your mind remains entirely your own." Keval appreciated this precaution. The Rion had never hesitated to force their will into his mind when necessary. The connection activated with a soft hum. Hannah's eyes widened as the system came online. Keval focused his thoughts, remembering how the Rion commanders would communicate with his kind. He formed a simple message and pushed it toward the connection point in his mind. "They're alive," Keval projected into Hannah's mind when she connected to his neural implant. "The others like me. Suffering." Hannah nearly fell from her chair when the alien thoughts entered her mind. "You can speak," she gasped, steadying herself against the examination table. "Not speak. Think," Keval projected. "No vocal cords for your language." Tears formed in Hannah's eyes. "This is extraordinary," she whispered. "You're fully sentient." "Always have been," Keval responded. "Rion no. They suppress. Control. Make us weapons only." The guards tensed as they watched Hannah's emotional response, not privy to the conversation occurring silently between human and war beast. "There are more like you," Hannah asked aloud, for the benefit of others in the room. "Many," Keval projected. "Hundreds. Different types. All slaves. All aware." A tear slipped down Hannah's cheek. "What the Rion have done to you, it's not just warfare. It's atrocity." For the first time in his existence, Keval felt something new. Hope. The human understood. Perhaps others would too. News of Keval's breakthrough spread quickly through the human base. Within days, military officials from Earth had arrived to see the sentient war beast for themselves. The meeting room buzzed with tension as officers and scientists debated Keval's future. Colonel Jinyu slammed his fist on the table. "That creature is a military asset. It knows Rion tactical formations, weapons capabilities, and strategic objectives. Keval is a sentient being," Hannah argued. "He deserves autonomy." "It's a weapon, Doctor. One we can use," Colonel Yu insisted, his face reddening with frustration. Hannah stood her ground. "He was created as a weapon, but that's not all he is. Would you say the same about human soldiers modified with battle implants? Are they just weapons too?" The room fell silent at her comparison. Earth's own military had begun enhancing soldiers with neural interfaces and biomechanical augmentations, though nothing as extensive as Keval's modifications. The Rayan designed these creatures to be controlled. General Wei added more calmly. "Without that control, how can we be certain of its loyalty?" "His loyalty," Hannah corrected. "And we can't. That's the point. Keval deserves the freedom to choose." In the medical bay, Keval listened to this debate through the neural link he shared with Hannah. She had left the connection open so he could hear the discussions about his fate. The concept of choice was still new to him. The Rion had never allowed their creations to make decisions beyond basic battlefield tactics. After hours of argument, a compromise was reached. Keval would provide intelligence on Rayan tactics and technology in exchange for protected status. He would not be treated as a prisoner, but as a refugee. The military agreed not to attempt control of his neural systems. For 2 weeks, Keval worked with human intelligence officers, sharing everything he knew about Rion battle strategies and weaknesses. He found unexpected satisfaction in helping the humans. Each piece of information he provided might save lives. Lives of beings who had shown him mercy when his own creators had abandoned him. Hannah continued to treat his remaining injuries and helped modify his neural interface, replacing Rion control modules with human medical monitoring systems. The work was delicate, requiring perfect coordination between them. This should prevent any Ryan override attempts, Hannah explained as she installed a small shield generator near his primary control implant. Your mind will remain your own, no matter what. Rayon have master codes, Keyval projected through their link. Emergency protocols buried deep in genetic coding. We'll find them, Hannah promised, and remove them all. Keyval wanted to believe her, but centuries of Rayon conditioning left him doubtful. His creators had built many layers of control into their living weapons. On the 18th day since his rescue, Keyval woke suddenly in the middle of the night. Something felt wrong. His enhanced senses detected unusual vibrations through the floor, the kind made by stealth transports. He focused his hearing, picking up faint sounds of movement outside the base perimeter. Keyval tried to alert the humans through his monitoring system, but something was blocking the signal. He pounded on the reinforced door of his quarters, trying to trigger the security sensors. An explosion rocked the far side of the base. Alarms blared to life. Keyval sensed the attackers before the alarms even sounded, but it was too late to prevent the initial breach. The security locks on his door released automatically as the base switched to emergency protocols. During the chaos, Keyval broke free from his containment area. His first thought was to find Hannah. She would be in the medical bay, probably helping prepare for casualties. He raced through the corridors, passing startled soldiers who raised weapons before recognizing him as the friendly war beast. The base was under full attack now, with Rayon forces pushing in from multiple directions. When Keyval reached the medical bay, he found 2 Rayon soldiers already there. They had cornered the medical staff, including Hannah, who stood protectively in front of injured patients. Stand aside, human, one Rayon soldier ordered. We only want the beast. He's not yours to take, Hannah responded defiantly. The soldier raised his weapon. Then you will die unnecessarily. Keyval burst through the doorway with a roar that shook the room. The Rayon soldiers spun in surprise, not expecting to encounter one of their own weapons. Keyval moved with a speed that belied his massive size, knocking one soldier unconscious before the man could fire. The second got off a shot that grazed Keyval's shoulder before being thrown against a wall. Keyval. Hannah rushed to his side. You're hurt. Minor damage, he projected to her. Must secure facility. More explosions rocked the base. This was no ordinary raid. It was a full assault, focused on this location. Keyval realized with growing dread that the Rayon had come specifically for him. The confirmation of his fears arrived minutes later when Commander Tyree of the Rayon forces personally entered the medical bay, flanked by elite guards. Tyree was one of the chief architects of the War Beast program, a cold-eyed scientist soldier who saw living creatures as nothing more than materials to be shaped. Asset Keyval, Tyree said calmly. You have strayed from your purpose. Keyval positioned himself between Tyree and the humans. My purpose is my own now. Tyree showed no surprise at Keyval's communication. Interesting modifications the humans have made, but ultimately futile. From his pocket, he removed a small control device. Using it, he attempted to override Keyval's neural implants. The familiar burning sensation of Rayon control codes flooded Keyval's mind. You belong to us, Tyree projected directly into Keyval's neural pathways. You exist to serve. Keyval fought against the invasive commands, his vision blurred as conflicting directives battled within his enhanced brain. Kill the humans. Protect Hannah. Return to Rayon control. Choose freedom. But with Hannah's help, Keyval had modified his neural interfaces. The shield generator they had installed created a buffer against the strongest Rayon commands. Keyval pushed back against Tyree's mental assault. I belong to no one, he responded, gathering his strength and lunging forward. With one powerful swipe, he tore the commander's control device apart. Tyree's cold composure broke at last, his face showing fear as he realized his creation had truly broken free of control. He backed away, signaling his guards to attack. K'Vol moved to defend the humans, his massive body becoming a living shield. In that moment, his choice was made. He was no longer a weapon. He was a protector. The battle for the human base lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Rion forces retreated, leaving behind their dead, and once again, their damaged war beasts. But this time was different. This time, the abandoned creatures were not left to die. K'Vol moved among them, his massive form now adorned with a human medical insignia. He touched his neural interface to theirs, one by one. "You are not weapons," he projected into their minds. "You are alive. You can choose." At first, they did not understand. Like K'Vol once had, they knew only war and control. But the neural shield technology that Hana had developed allowed K'Vol to break through the Rion command codes. One by one, the war beasts awoke to true consciousness. The humans watched in amazement as K'Vol communicated with his kind. Where they had expected to find mindless killing machines, they discovered beings capable of thought, emotion, and choice. "Each one has a unique mind," Hana explained to her superiors. They were never just weapons. The Rion suppressed their consciousness to control them. The military leaders remained skeptical until the day 3 liberated war beasts volunteered critical information about a planned Rion attack. The intelligence saved thousands of human lives and helped turn the tide of the war. The battle became a turning point in the war. K'Vol, with Hana's assistance, began liberating other war beasts. Each one freed became an ally to the humans. They had knowledge of Rion tactics, technology, and weaknesses that no human spy could ever acquire. More importantly, they fought not because they were forced to, but because they chose to defend those who had shown them compassion. News of the liberated war beasts spread through Rion territories. Their creators had not expected their weapons to develop a will of their own, much less to turn against them. The psychological impact was devastating. Rion commanders could no longer trust their most powerful weapons. When K'Vol led a mission to free war beasts from a Rion breeding facility, the victory was total. Hundreds of his kind were liberated before they could be implanted with the most restrictive control devices. 6 months later, a peace treaty was being negotiated. The war that had raged for decades was ending not through total victory, but through mutual recognition of a new reality. K'Vol stood as representative of his newly recognized species, which the humans had named the Kirvathi, after the first of their kind to achieve freedom. At first, the Rion refused to acknowledge them as anything but property, but when half their remaining war beasts laid down their weapons rather than fight, the Rion had no choice but to negotiate. The grand hall of the neutral space station fell silent as K'Vol approached the podium. His scarred body told the story of countless battles, but he carried himself with a dignity no one could deny. "We were created as weapons," K'Vol addressed the human delegation led by Admiral Sun Li. "But you saw us as more than that. You saw potential where our creators saw only tools." He turned to face the Rion representatives, who still regarded him with a mixture of fear and disgust. "We do not seek revenge," he continued, his thoughts transmitted and translated for all to hear. "We seek recognition. We seek the right to determine our own future." The treaty signed that day included unprecedented terms. The Kirvathi would be recognized as a sentient species with full rights. They would be granted territory on the contested moon of Ilara, where the battle that changed everything had taken place. The Rion agreed to cease all production of sentient weapons and to release control of existing war beasts. In return, the Kirvathi promised not to seek vengeance for past wrongs, and the humans agreed to share their defensive technology with the Rion to replace their lost biological weapons. 1 year after K'Vol had been left to die on that battlefield, he returned to the same spot. But this time, he did not come alone. On a rehabilitated section of the battlefield where K'Vol had once been left to die, a sanctuary now stood. Dozens of former war beasts learned to live without combat, developing art, culture, and community. Their natural abilities and enhanced bodies, once tools of destruction, now helped them build and create. Some chose to remove their cybernetic enhancements. Others repurposed them for peaceful work. All of them learned what it meant to make their own decisions. Hannah watched from a distance as Keval taught younger Kirvathi how to communicate without violence. These were the newest generation, born free rather than created in labs. They had no memory of war or control, only stories told by their elders. Keval noticed her watching and approached, his movements now smooth and measured rather than predatory. They learned quickly. Hannah observed through their neural link, which they still use to communicate. They have no barriers to unlearn, Keval replied. No programming to overcome. A small Kirvathi child broke away from the group, approaching Hannah shyly. Unlike the adults, this one was much smaller with brighter scales and no cybernetic implants. In its clawed hands, it held something. When the small Kirvathi child approached her with a crudely fashioned gift, a stone carving of intertwined human and Kirvathi hands, Hannah knew that the rescue of one abandoned war dog had changed the course of two species forever. This is just the beginning, Keval projected, watching the interaction with what Hannah had come to recognize as his version of a smile. My kind were created for war, but we choose peace. Around them, the sanctuary bustled with activity. Human scientists worked alongside Kirvathi to develop new medical techniques. Former soldiers from both species trained together, learning to protect rather than destroy. In the distance, a mixed group of human and Kirvathi children played together in fields that had once been scorched by battle. Their laughter carried on the wind, a sound that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. Keval looked out over it all, remembering the pain and loneliness of that day when he had been left to die. That abandonment, meant to be his end, had instead become the beginning of something remarkable. No living being should be treated as disposable, Keval projected to all who could hear. In saving me, you humans taught us that compassion is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of all. The end.